Welcome, Solara here. I hope you guys are all doing well. We are still in the corridor in the aftermath of the full moon in Cancer, and as such, emotions are running very high. I've received a lot of downloads in the past 48 hours, and I decided to take a break and just chill out with my children yesterday, and see if I could just allow stuff to come to me a little bit more organically and take a break from trying to tune into what I was receiving. And so I'm glad to be able to do that now. I don't know where this reading is going to go. I'm going to start off by telling you some of the things that I've been being shown. It's all coming together to form a bigger story, but let me tell you some of the bones of it. So first and foremost, one message they gave me yesterday was that the ones who thought you were the weakest link are about to find out that you are actually the strongest. There's something also about something going out with a bang. I've been seeing that since New Year's, going out with a bang, okay? Another thing was, another energy that was coming up is that there are many methods or ways to murder a soul. So many of you have been murdered countless of times on this journey. And when I say murdered, I did a post about this in the community section the other day. Murder is an energy that can culminate in physical death, but it doesn't have to. Murder in the tarot is represented by swords energy because it's all the ways that people try to use their intellect, their knowledge, their mental energy, their mouths, their words to cut you down and diminish you. It's a form of soul murder. And for many of you, you have your soul has been they've been trying to murder you on many occasions. 22:11 on my clock. They've been trying to murder your soul. And they never thought that you would rise from the dead because of the work you've been doing, because of the way that you have collected those pieces of yourself that you may have lost in trauma, or you may have abandoned in trauma too, or in the aftermath of trauma, falling into patterns of codependency or addiction or self-hatred and self-loathing, all of those things that trauma is supposed to induce. All of those parts that you lost and you called back to yourself and you recovered and you recuperated by doing the work and integrating your shadow and returning to the truth of who you are divinely. All of that is what is helping you to rise up from the dead. A lot of these people, groups, factions left you for dead. A lot of them saw you in your struggle. They saw you whether you were depressed, whether you were addicted, whether you were sick. And a lot of these energies that you had carried were an aftermath of the things that they had been inflicting upon you to harvest your energy as a divine being. And they watched you struggle and suffer. And a lot of you, they then turned around and shamed you for it all the more. Okay? And that was all part of the keeping you in a continual cycle of murdering your soul so that you would also learn how to go out and do it for yourself through, addiction, self-neglect, codependency, being in relationships where you're silenced, or relationships where you're abused, or relationships where you're not valued. All of that was to set you up for a cycle, okay? Some of you, this message is coming through again, so maybe whoever this is for didn't receive it when I said it the first time, but there's this message about clearing the energy around your ankles and your feet. Somebody has been trying to bind you astrally to keep you walking on the wrong path, or keep you constantly diverted on your path. And even if you've made a lot of progress up until this point, that has been a factor that has slowed you down. And it's time now for you to recover your power fully and pick up speed. So if you've been feeling that or sensing that, please, do your own connecting with your guides and whatever it is you do to get your information. But for some of you, that's still there because it's coming up again, okay? The tripping over the feet. It's either that's still there, or somebody tried to do it again through these full moon energies, okay? Yes, okay? I was channeling songs though today also. There were two songs that were coming through. One was Lauryn Hill, Mystery of Iniquity, and the other one is... I've got to just check out my playlist because I don't remember the artist. It's called Free, and it is by Perry Jones, Perri Jones. And I don't remember, I don't know fully how the song goes enough to like sing it for you, but I know some of the lyrics. It's like, I'm free, I'm beautiful or something, and comfortable with me. It's something about somebody who's recovered the love of self. Okay, so many of you are walking into a new cycle of freedom. And it's because of having done the work of recovering the love for self. Okay, we talk about this all the time, but what my guides are asking me to focus on today is some of the details of some of the stuff that you're actually walking away from. A lot of the times, we need to learn what it is. We only learn the depths of what it is that we've dealt with when the cycle is ready to close. Because if our guides showed us too soon, before we were ready to emotionally process, or before we had the ability to walk, it may have broken our hearts to a point where, you know, we might not have recovered very quickly. So our guides have been very kind in giving us, I know mine have, giving like little bits of information that I needed in order to break free at every juncture. But like the majority of the information now, the details, is flowing in, and it probably is for you too, and that's because you're ready. You're ready. But I want to also tell you that by the time these energies begin to reveal themselves, it's because they're on their way out. So as a divine being, as a high frequency being, there is never any need for you to fear. Okay? Another word that came just as I hit record on my camera, I was presented with the word Advent. And when I looked it up, you know, like we know Advent, the season of Advent is those 24 days in December that lead up to what they call Christmas. But let me see. Let me just see here. Advent also means the coming or arrival of something or someone that is important or worthy of note. There's something coming. There's something, this is how I'm seeing it. There's something coming that is important, and it's going to be very noteworthy in this transition of closing out the old and bringing in the new in a higher and greater way. Okay, there's something, we're on the cusp of something, okay? It also is the coming of Jesus at the incarnation. So this talks about the return of Jesus, right? And this is what Christians speak about, but what the return of Jesus really is the rising of the sun within divine beings, within high frequency beings. That means that we are now able to access our Christed energy, recuperate all that has been stolen from us by way of energy harvesting, especially from the solar plexus, to reclaim our divine place is really what it's about. It's also a little bit to do with the Kundalini rising. I won't go too into that. We'll see what comes out in the reading, but yes. And then another song that kept coming up was that Lauryn Hill song, Mystery of Iniquity. It goes, it's the mystery of iniquity. It's the misery of iniquity. Said it's the history of iniquity. When it all falls down. It's not my key, but you might know it from the Kanye West song, right? And this is from her MTV Unplugged, when she was completely blackballed by the music industry after, and they made fun of her, and she left for a while. But in this song, she speaks very clearly about the hypocrisy and the illusion that is used to build this world and its systems. But she's talking about how it must all fall down. Just like Babylon did, this must all fall down too. And this is really what I'm getting. Like, this is a big energy. And it's happening within, but it's happening without too. In fact, the only reason it can happen externally is because you've done the work of pulling down certain illusions within yourself. And what you're seeing now happen outside is a reflection of that. So another, this word iniquity kept coming up, and then I got the song. So I then went to do like look into the word iniquity, and we know that it can mean wickedness, but I was led to a story in the Bible, and it speaks specifically, I think it was Genesis 44, about Judah. And I think Judah was one of the brothers of Joseph. You know, Joseph the dreamer, the one they all laughed at when he came to his father and said he had a dream that the sun and the moon bowed down at him. The sun, the moon, and the stars bowed before him, and then he had another dream that that he was in a field of corn, and there were many sheaves of corn, and he was in the center, and his brothers and his father were surrounding him, and they represented other sheaves, and they bowed before him too. And his brothers got really pissed off about this. They got pissed off because for one thing, Joseph was one of the most beloved of the brothers. He was, I think, the only son of Rachel. And I don't know if you know the story of Joseph's father. I think, yeah, Joseph's father, I believe, was Jacob, right? And Jacob was a trickster in the Bible. He tricked his father when his father was like sick and blind. He pretended to be his brother. He came in and stole his brother's birthright. That's the story of Jacob. And then after that, he had to run away because his brother was real pissed at him and was trying to kill him. And so he ran away, and he agreed to work the land for, I think maybe he worked as a shepherd. I don't remember entirely, but I know he worked the land for a landowner. And in exchange, he said he fell in love with the landowner's daughter, who was Rachel. And the landowner said, okay, you can marry my daughter Rachel, who I think was the landowner. I think it was his favorite daughter too. You can marry my daughter Rachel if you do 7 years of labor for me. Okay, so Joseph fulfilled his end of the contract. He did 7 years. And then on the night of his wedding, because, I think a lot of the women back then, they would wear veils, and he didn't see the face of his bride. So he was tricked, and he ended up consummating the marriage, which is really what marriage was back in the day. You weren't married until you can't, like, that's two bodies becoming one was really what marriage ultimately was. 22:22 on our clock. It's why to this day you can still annul a marriage if you haven't consummated it, right? But after consummating the marriage, he found out that he had been deceived and tricked too. So he'd gone and tricked his father to steal a birthright that didn't belong to him. Then he was now tricked, and he ended up marrying Rachel's older sister, Leah. And because he'd slept with her, the marriage was now official. So then, because they believed in polygamy, he could have several wives. He made another deal to work. I think it was possibly another 7 years to get Rachel, because he really wanted Rachel. I don't know if it was 7 years, but I know it was a good amount of time to work and to acquire, because back then women were, you acquired wives. So then he got Rachel, and you can only imagine, like, the jealousy and the competition that must have arisen, especially with Leah, who was his first wife, because she knew that, Jacob didn't really love her, she knew that he really was in love with Rachel. So anyway, Jacob had a whole bunch of children with Leah, and he had, I think just 1 or 2 with Rachel. And one of the children he had with Rachel was Joseph. And he was besotted with Joseph. And it was clear that Joseph was one of his favorites. And the other brothers, of course, didn't like that. And I'm sure you guys know the rest of the story, where they trick him when he's sent by their father to tell them to come home. They trick him into, I think, a well, and then they leave him there, and then they leave him there for dead. I don't remember the details of the story, but he gets sold into slavery. One of the brothers has mercy, and instead of leaving him to die, he sells Joseph to the Egyptians into slavery, and the others think he's dead. And then we know the whole story of how Joseph went through, being in prison and being enslaved for, many years until he gained the favor of Pharaoh and ended up being the Pharaoh's right-hand man to the point where he ruled over Egypt, right? And this is where we have the moment where his dreams become reality. Some of you, sorry for this long-ass story, but some of you are coming into the place, where your dreams are about to become a reality. Those things that you've known about yourself, those things that other people tried to deny in you, those things that other people saw in you before you saw them in yourself, those things that they saw in you and they had to tear you down so that you didn't access the truth of who you were. Those things are blossoming and blooming now in you. And I say all of that because this is where the word iniquity is coming up, but it's very tied into this idea of selling out a sibling. And I was just like, well, why do I keep on coming against this energy, right? Because even like with doing my polls here and on TikTok before, this karmic sibling, I got tired of this karmic sibling, this brother, this sister. And again, before even the introduction with all of the story and everything, I kept on hearing this message about this karmic sibling and this karmic mother. And I'm just like, well, what is this again? What is this again? And what I've been shown is that there was a karmic mother. This might be, and let me preempt this by saying, this might be your story, or it might be the story of somebody like your divine partner, someone you're meant to come together with, or someone you're already together with, or someone you already know but you're not yet together. Okay, it could be your story, it could be theirs, because because a lot of the time when you are in these divine partnerships, a lot of the details of the energies you share, they mirror, even if not the details, a lot of the energies, you guys share a lot of the energies. They may be presented differently, or they may be presented very similarly. The only thing that's going to be different are the details. The root of the energy is the same. I hope that makes sense. So my guides started to tell me this story, and they said, there's a situation with a karmic mother, and this karmic mother married into a situation with a man who ultimately was actually harnessing her. And it was like, in order for her not to be harnessed by him, she gave up her children for that position. And one of her children, when they reached a certain age or status, and they started to access a society, could be a secret society, could be anything. There was some kind of transfer that took place. I don't know if it's going to come out here, but there was some kind of transfer that took place. And what you have to understand and understand about this situation is that in this situation, the husband was the karmic mother's handler. When she gave up her position, she then became the handler over the children. So it was up to her, in order to maintain a certain level of freedom or material access, whatever it was that this karmic mother got. And for some people, what it was is she was getting material gain off of the pain cycles that she was putting these children through in order to harness. For some of you, she was putting these children, it could be you or another high frequency being or your divine partner, putting you through or them through these cycles of pain in order to harness on behalf of a puppet master. Could have been even the husband. But either way, what you have to know is that one sibling got out. And the only reason the one sibling got out was because this sibling was favored by the mother. And in doing so, this sibling then became a handler over the others. the other 2, 3, 4, 1, it doesn't matter how many children there are, okay? But it was like, there was one in particular that this sibling had to like sell out. And oftentimes this is like the high frequency being, because they like to harness your divine energy, your divine gifts, your divine access. A lot of the time with these energy harvesting operations, even in families, especially in families, it happens in families more than people are aware. They know who you are. Like I said, they knew who you were before you knew who you are. And as you wake up, you'll realize people know who you are. You'll be walking in the street and people will be staring at you. And once upon a time, maybe you thought there was something wrong with you. That's why people stared. But as you healed yourself, you began to realize, oh no, they're attracted to my glow, to my light. I give off something, and indeed you do. It's in your very, in the synthesis of your energy field. You give it up. And the more healed you are and the more aware you are, the more you can see your effect on people. And just because you just woke up to that doesn't mean other people haven't. In this scenario, there's also another person who kept coming up in the smaller, like, mini reads. There's a karmic uncle. And there's something about what's happening to you at this time as you walk into freedom that it's like this karmic uncle is, the word that kept on coming was hungry. He's hungry. And what you have to realize is that many people have been eating off of you, materially, but also energetically speaking. And there's a lot happening right now in the background that you're not aware of. You might be picking up on it, especially if you're clairaudient. You might be hearing the conversations. You might be seeing things in dreams, but you're not picking up on it yet, in the sense that you might not be seeing it materially. But don't for 1 minute think that there's not a lot going on behind the scenes right now, because all their towers are about to fall and they're frantic. They're frantic. All of the illusions that they cast in the dark, all of the ways they try to use the dark to hide their evil deeds, the dark can't cloak them anymore. The dark can't cloak them anymore. There's too much light that's come into the planet now for them to be cloaked. And a lot of them know that you know something, or that you know a lot. And a lot of them, even without that, they know that it's time. Yes, but there's something here about some really illicit family shit that has a lot to do with some kind of astral slave trade, soul harvesting, spiritual black market stuff. And another thing that kept on coming through was it's like they've been trying to, they had you courted, and maybe through the work you've done, you have removed a cord. Maybe you have purposely worked with someone or done the work yourself and removed the cord. But there's something about them frantically, they keep on trying to put the cord back in. And it's almost like every time they try, they can't access the seed point of where they were able to put the cord before. And for many of you, that's because it no longer exists. That seed point no longer exists, because once upon a time, the seed point that existed, where they were able to cord you and harness you, it was due to a severe amount of your own self-doubt, 2233. And because you didn't know who you were, and because you lived in a low vibration, right? You lived in the frequency of shame. You lived cycling through fear, guilt, and shame. That was your energetic prison and your home. That's where they had, that's another thing. Some of you, it was like they're trying to record you. Others of you, it's like they're trying to record you and put you back in the box they had you on. They had you in astrally, and the only way they know how to do that is to lower your vibration to a place where you live in that frequency. You live perpetually cycling through fear, guilt, and shame, but they can't do it anymore because you've gotten to a place on your journey where you are alchemizing everything that's sent your way. Even their attacks can't do shit. They bounce off of you, or even if they do come into your day and they bother you, instead of getting upset, you are rejoicing at the fact that you get to learn something else about your power, because really what it is that they send to destroy you, the divine allows to refine you. And a lot of the unlocking of your gifts and your powers have come because of the combat you've engaged in, because of these constant attacks. It's just that once upon a time when their attacks came, you laid down and took it, and you drowned in a bed of feeling like you were helpless. And now when the attacks come, you're just like, bring it on. I know who I am. I know you can't command my energy anymore. You know, I know why you're attacking me. Like the truth has set you free. The truth has set you free. And for many of these people, they don't want to acknowledge the truth. And they've known the truth for a while, but they don't want to acknowledge it. Oh my gosh, there's so many fucking downloads. Like I said, it's been like, and this isn't even half of it. Another song that was coming through, I woke up this morning and I could hear, I don't know if you guys remember that nursery rhyme, who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf. And it's like, I think it's like a nursery rhyme that's about, you know, Little Red Riding Hood. And so I asked my guys, I was like, well, what is this about? And they said, well, the thing about it is that they thought you were Little Red Riding Hood and they could lead you to grandma, and grandma, you think it was grandma when really it was a wolf. But what happened was when you got there and grandma was pretending to be a wolf, you disrobed yourself, and grandma, the wolf, found out that you were a bigger, higher ranking wolf. And now grandma, the grandma wolf, is scared shitless. You get what I'm saying? The ones that have been posing as the big bad wolves and making you feel like a sheep, they're scared shitless now, because the whole point of having you imprisoned and enslaved and boxed astrally, the only way they could do that was by getting you tethered and believing that you were powerless and weak. And then they were eating off of that shit to create this false illusion of being the big bad wolf, but they're not the big bad wolf. Turns out you were always the big bad wolf. And now that you know this, they're terrified. They're terrified. For some of you, another thing that's coming in, if you've had a dream with your grandmother and she has passed over and she is one of your guides, or she's wanted to come in and talk to you about certain things, it may not have been her. Especially if it was a weird dream. That's not going to be for everyone. Especially if the dream was weird and it felt off in some kind of way. One of the people in these parties, they cloaked themselves as her in order to do something, whether it was to attach something to, and this doesn't have to be recent. It could have been in the past, could be in the recent past. You know, take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it doesn't, throw it out. But there's something here about a grandmother who has crossed over, who they were using in your dream state to pretend they were cloaking themselves in her, not in her energy. They weren't cloaking themselves in her energy because they didn't think it would make a difference. They didn't realize how intuitive you are. So it wasn't, they were just cloaking in her image, not her energy. So for those of you, it's important. They keep telling me it wasn't her energy, it was just her image. So that's important for you to know, because if something felt off energetically, even though she showed up in your dream and it was her face and her body and her clothes, it wasn't her. Okay? Storm warning. You can't make this shit up. Storm warning. Storm warning. In this deck, this is the Tower card, and look who's at the bottom. Looky who's here. Well, if it isn't Archangel Metatron, the one who has recorded every single word you've ever said, every single word they've ever said, in any and every lifetime in your Akashics, Archangel Metatron. Archangel Metatron comes in to shut shit down. When these archangels start to come into your energy, It's like it's time to shut shit down. And a lot of the time they'll come in at various pivotal points. Okay, like for me, I can tell you, Archangel Metatron started to show up at another point where somebody was trying to harness and harvest myself and my children in like a really nasty way. And it was like, enough is enough, because I loved this person. I never even knew at the time this shit existed. I trusted this person, you know. But Archangel Metatron, everywhere I went, kept showing up, kept showing up, kept showing up. And it took me a good year to begin to believe what Archangel, a lot of them, it wasn't just Metatron, but a lot of them began to show me. It took me a while. And that's what I'm talking about here. When I said at the beginning of the reading, I said, or the beginning of the downloads, because we just started the reading, when I said to you, many of you, your guides, your most benevolent ancestors, your spirit team, in other words, they have been dropping information as you could digest it. Because for some of you, if they had just come out and told you all of this stuff, it would have floored you. But now it's like you're at a point where you can no longer be floored by this. So a lot of this stuff is getting ready. In other words, a lot of the towers that are about to happen, our spirit team was just waiting for us. Waiting for us to wake up, waiting for us to heal, waiting for us to acknowledge. That's all. So we got Metatron here in storm warning. For some of you, you thought your third eye was open. And it is open, you know. But what I mean when I say you thought is that the things that you're about to be shown, it's like Metatron is getting ready to lay some people and situations out there. Okay, and for some of you, and I channeled this when I did a scrying session in December. It's still obviously it's still obviously on the channel. It was a few weeks ago, and it was all about how there were 5 to 10 people involved in the situation, and what was going to happen was the way they were going to be exposed was vicariously through some judges being exposed and them kind of being on the roster and the payroll or something. It's like the events that have had to come into perfect order for like the dominoes to go, it's ready. Like the dominoes, it's like Metatron, the way they're showing me. Metatron, all the dominoes are lined up now. And it's like that he's just waiting. Maybe Metatron, maybe Uriel, maybe all of them. Just waiting to be like, okay, time to push the domino now. time to roll out karma. Time for all the towers to fall. Because the truth is, and I've said this in another reading, the towers that they built in illusion, they built off of illusion, and the shit that they were doing in the dark are the materials you need to build the new world, because a lot of these towers were built off of your energy. So now they must crumble. For some of you, these people, whether it was a mother, whether the mother was being handled by the father, whether it's a sibling that came in on all of this, and the uncle, and whether they were working with other spiritual practitioners. I feel like it's all of the above for some of you. But a big thing that they were using to implement some of this stuff, to open certain portals that were designed to keep you stuck, because when they opened portals, what they were doing were inviting low vibrational entities in order to bind you, block your path, do whatever it is that they needed to do in order to keep you small, to keep you bound, to keep you boxed in the astral, to be able to continually murder your soul without you knowing. They were utilizing antiques to do this. Some of them are utilizing antiques. Some of them are utilizing art. I say that because these cards came out yesterday and my guide said keep them. It's part of the message you're going to do tomorrow. So they're still here in front of me, right? The cards that came out, this was the overall energy, arts and antiques to open portals in order to invite in energies and entities of destruction. And a lot of it was to, again, we had the third house coming up, so that's all about siblings and neighbors. It was a group activity, but it was designed to silence you, designed to silence your truth, designed to keep you from being able to speak your truth, access spirit also. That Gemini and Virgo energy are mercurial energies, which are all about your ability also to connect with spirit in order to connect with your truth, that you can speak it or live it or express it, because Gemini rules the hands. Okay, but also this third house energy is also about how you are able to form relationships based upon how you're treated as a child in the context of sibling dynamics and dynamics with your peers and your neighbors. Okay, it's how you develop your ability to communicate your truth comfortably, and this is a very important thing in how you show up later on in order to advocate for yourself in other relationships. There's something about the third house that's very important about how you form the way you are able to have healthy relationships based upon, again, your ability to stand in your truth, but also in order to communicate. For a lot of you, these spells were against like communication, like even in like the way this can play out also is even if you got together with somebody, right? Or you've been with somebody and this person wasn't necessarily a karmic, but it was maybe your divine partner, or maybe it was a high, what they call a high level soulmate. I just believe that, let me not go there. Anyway, the point was to keep you guys at odds by casting illusions whereby you say something, they misunderstand it, you misunderstand something, you guys don't know how to speak your truth or connect with your emotions enough, or humble yourselves enough to, to be able to speak your truth without it being combative. Because a lot of the time, what it is that they within the context of these family situations, because what we're looking at is somebody who was really scapegoated for the purpose of energy harnessing, whether it was you or another person. What they've done is they victimized the person and then shamed them for being a victim. And so what that does is it causes a lot of anger, rightly so, that if expressed, they then shame them for again. So then it causes a lot of repressed anger. And then when they go into other relationships, they don't know how to express themselves without getting angry or, etc. But the whole point of that was, it was part of, it was a part, not the whole. It was a part of the work that they were casting against you in order to keep cycles of destruction cycling through your life. Because for as long as they could keep you cycling through destruction, what they ultimately were doing was constantly taking you on an altar and sacrificing you, constantly murdering your soul. What do I mean by that? I mean, you would maybe find someone that you actually could vibe with, and they'd allow that for a period, right? Let that unfold, make you feel good. Then all of a sudden that person turns on you, or you're doing really well in the job and all of a sudden just out of nowhere it goes to shit. And in the beginning you may have thought, oh my gosh, this is something wrong with me, because that's what they want you to think. They wanted you to keep on thinking there's something inherently wrong with me. That's why this stuff happens. I'm the common denominator, right? But then it gets to a certain point where the illusions started to fall and you began to see, wait a minute, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. And then you start to begin to wake up to yourself. And then you begin to see, oh, wait a minute. So this is what's happening. There's been a lot of manipulation behind the scenes. And now I can begin to see it was never about me, because you had multiple workings being done to you in order to bind you astrally to keep your soul constantly going through cycles of destruction, because when you reached those the pinnacle of feeling good and then it was dashed away from you, you were perfect to harness at that time. Do you get what I'm saying now? I hope I'm helping to make sense of it. But and this is why so many of them are shook, because they did it for so long that they never thought that you or this person would ever wake up. They don't get that. No, they didn't get what was happening universally with ascension and the planet changing and all of that. And a lot of them, even if they were told this, they thought they were above it. And there's so much that's coming right now. Please bear with me. But like, a lot of them right now are terrified, because they're waking up to what it is that what they've done has actually afforded them. Because there's no cheating ascension. You can't grab a hold of a divine being or a high frequency being and hold on to their coattails and be like, I'm coming with you. No, now it's time for them to pay for what it was that they did in order to be something, quote unquote, utilizing the energy and the divine gifts of other high frequency beings in order to create an illusion that they were you in the old world. I hope that's making sense. I hope it's making sense. There's just a lot. So we have woman holding a heart. I feel like that's you. Rest and rejuvenation. We have this 44 again. We have this 44 again. It's like I'm getting a dual message. Sorry, at the bottom we have rest and rejuvenation. I'm getting a few messages with this card. For one thing, this is affirming that this is something to do with family and ancestry and bloodlines and all that stuff. And the towers that are coming, it's because something has wrapped up with ancestral entities from the old world that didn't want to let go of it and wanted to continue your family in dysfunction. And there's something about what it is you've done and who it is you are that has put an end to that, however that might look. For some of these families, they're not moving forward into the new earth. You will be the only one, and any of your descendants, moving forward in the new earth, and you are actually getting ready to begin a brand new lineage based upon your divine blueprint, okay? For some of them, you know, the only way to move forward in the new earth is because they've done the work. So for some of you, you might have family members who have, you know, and so that bloodline isn't going to be completely like quashed. I hope this makes sense, because it's not just about how the 3D looks at blood. It's deep. What you're forming in the new earth is deeper than that, okay? It's like a whole new frequency, if that makes sense, a whole new family frequency. So what I'm getting here with the woman holding a heart, there's something here about, well, first and foremost, at the bottom we have rest and rejuvenation. So this is a number 19, which again breaks down to a number 10. So it's like, as this is happening to these other people groups, factions, this is where you're being asked to be. And this is again another 10. And 10 is that energy of overlapping. It's the beginning of something while simultaneously something ends. It's the ability for something to begin because of the ending of something else. It's like a crossover energy. You're being called to rest and rejuvenate, because for a lot of you, these cycles have been so heartbreaking, and maybe some of the things you're receiving now are so emotionally tough, which is part of what the revelation of this full moon in Cancer is really also aiding us with. But it's also that a lot of you're about to recuperate a lot of your heart energy. You're about to recuperate a lot of your ability to connect with others again in a way that feels good, because what a lot of these cycles do a lot of the time is it causes us to shut down, because really you get to a place where you realize that it's really difficult to trust people. And it's like you're being healed right now. There are activations that want to come through to heal your heart and to replenish it so that it becomes a stargate again for your use, okay? I don't want to go too much into the semantics of how your heart is a stargate and how, because they had attached themselves to your heart, and attached you to these frequencies, these lower vibrating frequencies, are trying to keep you stuck in that. That's how they were able to also manifest through your stargate. But it's like now you have recovered that. You are recovering that fully from this cycle. In other words, they can't take what they could take from you before, and you are being given back the fullness of what is yours within your own energetic field that you weren't even aware for the longest time existed, or that it was being used by someone else. Okay. I don't want to be too much longer. Oh, other energy that's coming out. Something about the 8th of April might be important for some of you. The name Gerard, Jerry, other forms of that name came out. Lions, you might be seeing a lot of lion energy right now. We are in this very, very powerful, serious energy right now. And lions are very much to do with Sirius and Lyran energy. So you might be from either place or both. I was seeing a lot of blue and violet. Blue and violet light, those are lights that you might want to work with, or might be, some of you might be the keepers of the blue or the violet flame, and you might be being activated in that, which is beautiful. Congratulations. And also a lot of roses. A lot of rose energy also. Some of you, again, this is that energy again of you being part of this Essene or Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, descendants of David energy, okay? I don't want to get too much into that tonight. Let's go into the Moonology Oracle and see what else is going to come out. Surrender to the divine, full moon. It's a really important time for you to surrender, okay? And the reason that's coming out is because all of this is happening, and if you are truly a divine being, high frequency being, although you know it's time for this, although you know it's inevitable, although you know that part of your destiny is linked to this happening, it's not something that necessarily you would have chosen. For a lot of you, you probably wish that these people would have just quit, and they got many opportunities to quit. That's why the towers are about to fall the way they are, because literally, like when I saw Metatron, or I saw those dominoes being stacked up, and I was just like, Metatron is there, or one of the other archangels just waiting to push it down. Those dominoes that have been stacked are all of the towers they kept putting in your way. Those dominoes that are stacked up and are about to be like to go down, those are the towers they kept putting in your way. And at every turn, every time they decided to put a tower on your path, they were met at a crossroads, and they had a decision to do it or not to do it. And every time they chose to sacrifice you. Every time they chose to murder your soul again. And as such, now it's only fair. Right? You can't like disable a person from actually being able to live and use their own energy and think you're going to get away with it forever, or get away with it without a scratch. And indeed, many of them, up until like recently, up until this last full moon, they were being given the ability and the option to not try to do this shit again, and they still decided to. You know? So, you know, like in the Bible, it speaks about, and let me just say, I use the Bible philosophically, because I don't believe that the Bible as we've been given it is 100% right. I don't. I believe it's been tweaked. I believe it's become an instrument of control. But nonetheless, there's still a lot of potent lessons that we can glean from the Bible. And in the Bible, I remember in the Old Testament especially, whenever God's people would turn away from God, God would always call them stiff-necked, which means stubborn. And he would say, this is a stiff-necked and stubborn people, and their hearts are hard. They've grown cold towards me. Their hearts are hard, and that's just what it is. Every time you decide to put a tower in front of someone else, and you decide to try to murder someone else's soul, what you're doing is, it's like you're giving up a piece of yours. And I don't believe in that you can completely give up your soul if you are truly a sentient being, not a clone or whatever, but truly a sentient being. But I do believe that you can get to a point where you become so fragmented in self that you no longer are able to access divinity. And so for you as a victim, and them as a victimizer, you as a victim, you were fragmented and you weren't able to access your divinity, and then they were using that to drain you. But what they weren't realizing is that they were fragmenting their souls too, because every time they chose to put a tower in your path, and every time they decided to try to murder your soul and sacrifice you or bind you on the astral for material gain, every time they were doing that, they were losing their own humanity. And the minute you recovered your divinity, they could no longer do that to you. But because that's all they knew, they just continued selling their humanity. And now it's like when they come, God doesn't even recognize them as his own, her own. They're not recognizable at this point because they've just gotten rid of everything that's sacred within them, not even just their divinity. Their divinity is long gone, but they even got rid of their own humanity. And this is why they can't go forward to the new earth. That's why many people who haven't accessed their divinity, they're still going to move forward. They're going to have to learn, but it's because they haven't lost their humanity. The age of Aquarius is about the recovering of our humanity as a collective. You can't access your divinity if you haven't first accessed your humanity. If you're here on this earth plane living a human existence, it's not going to work. So you're being called to surrender to the divine, release and rest with this full moon energy. There's going to be some things coming that you might not want to see. You might not want to see or experience it. This is interesting energy. Interesting. So first of all, your hard work is paying off. New moon in Capricorn. Okay, so for some of you, this is also speaking about a brand new opportunity in terms of your career is about to open for you, or what it is you do because of all it is you've been through and all the healing you've done, and because of the shift that's coming, you're very close to achieving your goal. Gibbous moon, again, we've got more of this full moon energy, but it's like bursting. It's bursting. Yeah, the gibbous moon. You're very close to achieving your goal. Surrender to the divine. But then what we also had come is nothing will come of this situation, which is a void of course moon. But I really do feel like this is not your energy. This is to do with them. The void of course moon is that time where they tell you not to do any energy work with the moon, because it's when the moon is moving from one zodiac sign into another. And in that time, it could be anywhere from a couple of minutes to I think a couple of hours. In that time, the moon isn't in a sign. It's just out there in the void. So I feel like this is their energy. Like no matter what they've done, there's nothing. They've reached the point of no return. There's nothing that's going to come from what they do anymore, for as long as it's not trying to be join the light and get into some form of divine order. Another thing that was coming is that you need to not think that the darkness that you're in right now is indicative for you, is indicative that nothing's coming of this situation. Like I said to you at the beginning of the reading, there's a lot of shit going on right now behind closed doors. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, because people know what time it is and they know there's no going back. And not only do they know there's no going back, but they know they should have never done you like this. And they know that there were opportunities that they could have come clean, and now they've built so many towers against you, they can't even come to you and speak the truth because they're so embarrassed and ashamed. That's what's happening right now. And what you're feeling a lot of the time is that tension. It's not even yours, which is why it's really important. Know your own energy right now. So I'm going to wrap this up because it's already been... at the bottom of the deck, we had a full moon in Virgo. You are good enough, okay? So a lot of these energies we're allowed to be kept alive for as long as you didn't believe that, as long as you didn't know that. And that Virgo energy, again, it's mercurial, but it's also 6th house, so it's about your routines. It's really important right now to do things in your day-to-day life that feel good and nourish your soul and the growing of your heart, and these activations that want to come that are here to recuperate your energy field and the things and restore the things that have been taken from you. But it's really important to rest, because your energy field is about to move into a state of further expansion, and that requires rest. Just like if you are pregnant and you're towards the end of delivering baby, like the later you get in the pregnancy, the more rapidly baby is growing, and the more you need to rest, because you are growing life. Cells are multiplying and dividing. No, well, not dividing. Are they dividing? They probably are multiplying and dividing. I don't know. You know what I mean. 2, 3, 4 on my clock. You are birthing your original divine self. Take care of you. Nurture your heart. Do things that feel good, that feel good, that feel good. You've been through enough of feeling bad. Okay, so that's what I have for you. I hope this reading was helpful and insightful. If it was, please make sure to hit the like button. Please do comment below. I haven't gotten to the comments from the other night, a few days ago, but I will catch up with them all. What else? If you want to work with me, you can check out my services on my website, which is listed below, and then you can email me and tell me what it is you're interested in. I don't do readings. I do one-to-one sessions, and this is one other thing I need to share with you guys. I do not do readings where you come, I do not do one-to-one sessions where you come to me and ask me to tune into someone else's energy. That is overstepping a boundary. I don't do that. I will look into joined, shared energy, because it's partly you, but I will never, ever look into the energy of somebody else. When I come to you with these collective messages, it's because these are the downloads I've received, and I've been directed by Spirit to go into the collective energy and to even share some of my experience that I'm picking up, because a lot of the time what we're going through is to help you, is to educate you too. We're learning lessons that we're here to also share with you. So a lot of the time that's what I'm doing here, but I will never, ever again, because I did before I knew better, tune into another person's energy. Okay, so let me just be very straightforward about that. So if you have a problem with that, if you're coming to me because you want me to read into your twin flame and all of that stuff, I won't do it. That's all I have for you. That's all I have for you. I will see you again soon. Until next time, be well.